Hunting the Shadows. Hello, everyone out there in podcast land. Good evening. Come on in. We're going to have a very interesting episode, a special episode tonight of Hunting the Shadows. Tonight, I have a 2-hour seminar on the Nephilim, the Fallen. And we think you're going to find this very interesting. I think it's going to have a lot of essential knowledge for you in it too, as well. So you might want to take notes. You might want to record this or go back and listen to this show again, because sometimes when you replay something, you get a little more out of it. Well, that's up to you, whatever you decide to do. But you might want to take notes, and we're going to have a little bit of a different format tonight, okay? Being that this is a seminar, a teaching seminar is what I'm going to go into very shortly here. We won't be taking, until the very end of the seminar, we won't be taking any questions or observations and all that until about the last 30 minutes of the seminar, okay? So if you've got any questions or anything you want to say, whatever the situation, you might want to jot it down so you don't forget it, okay? Now you can still communicate amongst yourselves. That's fine. But I will be giving the seminar, so I won't be able to answer questions until the end. That's our format for that, standard kind of a format for it. I always really like seminars and lectures because you can really meet one on one with people. You get to hear their thoughts, their questions, their observations, how they feel about it. Oh, that's always a good thing, definitely. So I want to welcome everybody here tonight. And I really appreciate you coming. And I think we're going to have a very interesting evening here together. Okay. And I'm going to very shortly, I'm going to begin this seminar on the Nephilim, the Fallen. And so let me get on over here to my brand and show you some photos. You've already seen this one at the beginning. And that's the little advertisement we had for the Nephilim, the Fallen, children of the Fallen. Okay, and what exactly does the word Nephilim mean? And that's what it means, fallen. It means someone who has changed their direction, or someone who has been corrupted, someone who's fallen from a higher state to a lower state. And that very well explains a lot about the Nephilim. Okay, and we're going to get into that very shortly here. Like I say, I want to welcome you all again. And like I said earlier, for those that's coming in late, slightly different format tonight, okay? Your questions and observations and all that will be taken in the last 30 minutes of this seminar, okay? All right. Okay. Now, what we know about the Nephilim, mainly about a lot of Nephilim, comes from the books, the Bible, the many different books. Some are the Gnostic, the books that have been left out, some are not. They tell us a lot of things about the so-called Nephilim. But to begin, you must begin at the beginning, okay? And the beginning is the book of Genesis that tells us this very interesting thing about the Nephilim. And this is what it says. That there were giants in the earth in those days and afterwards, when the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and went into them, and they had children by them, and the same became men of old, men of renown. Now, what that word renown means here in this sentence is not heroic, wonderful kind of a thing like Jason and the Argonauts or Hercules or Ulysses or whatever the situation. This word renown actually means different, set aside, peculiar. In other words, would be a good definition of that too. It means extraordinary. Okay, and that really hits the nail on the head on that one, definitely. Let me say this about that passage. It has a very interesting thing to it. That there were giants in the earth in those days and afterwards. Okay, so there may have actually been a race of giants created in the earth before this happened. But it could also be, and this is the old English, you got to remember, a roundabout way of saying that this is the history of it, okay? So it may not mean that there were actually giants before this event happened, but it might be contributing all that to this event. But anyway, getting back to what we're saying here, here's the interesting thing about this. The giants that are talked about here are not Jack and the Beanstalk kind of giants, okay? They're not the Jolly Green Giant selling vegetables, all right? These giants are different. They're monstrous. They are monsters. They do not look human, not human like you and I look. They may resemble humans a little bit. They may have a nose and a mouth and eyes and ears, but they are monstrous looking things. They were not normal beings. You got to remember their parentage. You know, you're your daddy's baby too, you know, and the fruit don't fall from the tree. And their fathers were fallen angels. Now let's talk a minute about the very nature of angels, okay? Because I'm going to do a seminar very soon on all about angels, okay? Because it's a very interesting subject. And a lot of people have asked me to do that. We will definitely have a seminar very soon, a 2-hour seminar on all about angels. But I'm not going to go too deep into the nature of angels tonight, but I just want to tell you this. Angels are extraordinary beings. They are spiritual beings, supposedly of pure light and pure energy, whatever name you want to give it, spiritual energy or whatever. But listen to this very carefully. Angels, and that includes the rebel angels, the fallen angels. Angels have a premier talent. They are absolutely the top best shapeshifters around. They can shape and change their shape and morph into different shapes or whatever. They can almost, in many ways, when you do this, you change your reality. Although most of the time they do not look human, and you would not recognize them as human looking being things in that respect, they can take on the attributes of human beings. They can take on the physical attributes of human beings. That's why they could procreate with human women. Okay. Now, Jesus said something very interesting in the Bible about the angels in heaven. He said, the angels in heaven marry nor either or never or not given in marriage. And that tells us something important. They could do that if they wanted to, but they're not allowed to. That's not part, because they're not that kind of a part of creation like you and I are. Okay, God has set that apart. These are different beings, a completely different race of beings in this universe. And here's the interesting thing about angels. Their original names were the Watchers, or the Morning Stars. This was how, and the Morning Stars tells you about their nature. how very holy, how very lighted these beings are, spiritually enlightened. They are intellectually immense beings. They have a lot of knowledge enough that you and I would never accumulate in 100 lifetimes. They have this knowledge. They have all of this, and their number one job was to be a watcher. Now, watcher could also be interpreted as the word supervisor, if you wanted to, or someone who overwatches or oversees something. And that was their main job, to be overseers, supervisors of this whole universe or universes. So, therefore, we've got to think about this point, in fact, that angels had to be billions of them. There has to be billions of them in order to cover all these areas. But angels are also interdimensional beings. That's the way they travel, that's the way they operate. And anyone who can move through interdimensional means can also many times shapeshift. That's their premier thing that they can do. And that's the thing that angels, and we know that angels can appear to look like men because of the many instances in the Bible that this has taken place. And other stories. There are thousands and thousands of stories of angelic encounters. These are the good guys. But what about the bad guys? What about the rebel angels? Okay. There's a lot of hypothesis on that. Okay. And it's exactly who are they and who are the Nephilim? Okay. Now, the Nephilim, who are the offspring of angels, are very much like running into this section of demonology with the incubi and the succubi. Now, let me explain this for just a moment. The incubi and the succubi are male and female appearing demons, okay? The incubi, can rape the woman. The succubi can rape the man. And that's what happens many times. This is a spiritual attack, okay? There's nothing really truly lustful or sexual about it in that way. Very much like someone being raped. A lot of times it's a matter of power over that person more than anything else. It's not sexual lust or anything like that, although that can play part of it. But that's not the main focus of it. And in law enforcement, I have talked with many victims of rape. And I know what the rapist thinks about this, what he has in mind, what his overpowering thing is to get power and control over someone. That's the main thing. And that's also goes with these demons, the incubi and the succubi. Now, the incubi, which is sex with the woman. Okay, first of all, you would have the succubi would have sex with the man. Okay, and the succubi would take the seed of the man and then appear as an incubus and have sex with the woman and implant that seed into her. This, my friends, is called in demonology the demon seed. Okay, because that child born from such a encounter will be, as I said earlier, it's daddy's baby too. Okay, it will have the attributes many times of the demonic, but it will also be human. There are people actually supposedly out there walking around that way who were actually born this way. Okay, I'm not saying there's a whole lot of them. Nobody really knows what the statistics are on it because nobody's ever done studies on this kind of stuff. But that is supposedly an incident that can happen. Supposedly not very rarely. Supposedly it can happen on a scale. Okay. This happened on a much larger scale with the fallen rebel angels who came in unto the daughters of men. Now, let me say something here. It's going to get a little rough here, but if you're offended, you might want to close your ears for a moment. But women who were impregnated with the seed of these fallen angels and who had these gigantic babies, the babies in their childbirth would kill these women. They were so large. The babies were so large, so violent, so inhuman that usually a lot of the women would not survive the birth of these things. They would just actually kill their host very quickly because of their size and other factors. One incident comes to mind is the Jersey Devil. supposedly very much like that. She was supposedly impregnated by the devil and had a child of the devil, which was a demon seed kind of thing. It actually almost killed this woman when it was born. So that is sort of just a little runoff of what these women were facing with these kind of supernatural type pregnancies that were going on, because this was a blend, an unholy blend of the demonic or angelic and humanity. This was an abhorrent condition. Now, let me say this, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this very shortly in the seminar. But there was a plan behind all of this. This wasn't just a happenstance thing. This wasn't just something that, just occurred offhandedly. There was a plan, a master plan behind this. And it was to corrupt the seed of man, of God, of man, and the creation of God. And also the creation and of nature itself. Now, I'm going to get into that very shortly. Now, let me say something here at the very outset of this, and I want to make this very clear to you. In my career, 55 plus years now, I have tried to study all the different fields, comprehensive study of all the different fields of the paranormal. I'm going to name them for you here right quick, and then you'll find out why in a moment I'm doing this. But there are 6 main fields of paranormal research. Okay, there may be some other little smaller fields and all that, but these are the 6 main fields. 1 is spiritual research. 2 is demonology. 3 is cryptozoology. 4 is UFOlogy. 5 is parapsychology. And 6 is earth mysteries. Now, the reason I'm listing these for you, and you might want to jot those down if you want to remember them later on. That's spiritual research, demonology, cryptozoology, UFOlogy, parapsychology, and earth mysteries. The reason I'm mentioning these is because this subject of the Nephilim overlaps every one of these fields, and we're going to talk about that very shortly. But let me list right quick for you the subcategories of study of paranormal fields, okay? And there's a lot of them, but these are the main ones. Folklore and superstition is 1. 2 is archaeology. 3 is history. 4 is anthropology. 5 is psychology. 6 is criminology. 7 is the occult. 8 is investigative science. 9 is astronomy. And 10 is metaphysics. A lot of this also plays in to not only our modern world, but the influence of the Nephilim as well. Now, let's get into this a little bit deeper. And the reason I want to list those fields for you is you've got to understand how very encompassing this subject is, okay? And we're going to be very lucky if we just scratch the surface in this 2-hour seminar, all right? But we're going to try to scratch it if we can. So here's the interesting thing about this. This plan that's implemented, it was, like I said, a very evil and very forthright type plan to corrupt humanity and the creation of God. That includes us. We are part of the creation. I've told people a lot of times, people get this wrong. You do not worship creation. You worship the creator, okay? And that's what we're talking about here is creation. That's the world around us, the universe itself, and us and our place in it, as well as the animals and everything else. So this plan not only was setting out to corrupt the DNA of man, of mankind, which is what it was, and to really screw things up, but it also went into the natural world too, to corrupt the animals in the animal kingdom, to corrupt the very essence of this world itself with a spiritual corruptness that to this day and eventually in our future will bear very bad fruit. Okay? But now, when you talk about the Nephilim and the offshoot, the offspring of this plan, you also go into things like cryptozoology. We have to wonder, where do cryptids like Bigfoot, Dog Man, Mothman, some of these others, Goat Man, and so on and so on. What is their true origin? Everything has a beginning, my friends. Everything has a beginning except God. Everything has a beginning. All right. Unfortunately, a lot of things have an end too. But everything has a beginning. Everything has an origin. And you've got to ask yourself, where did these things come from? Now, remember the story of Esau in the Bible, who was born covered with hair, reddish kind of hair. Matter of fact, that's what that name Esau means, red hair. He was covered with this reddish hair. He looked very hairy, almost like people. This was something that wasn't just a little hair on somebody. Okay, this was very noticeable thing here. You have to wonder about that. Okay. Well, let me say this about the Old Testament. When you look at the Old Testament, you got to look at it in many different ways to understand its context. But you got to remember this: it's a genealogy book, and it talks about two different bloodlines here. Okay, the bloodline of Adam and the bloodline of Cain. Okay, although Cain came from Adam, he deviated from it. Okay, and started his own bloodline per se in the world. You've got to look at it this way: Jesus directly descends from the bloodline of Seth and Adam, and not the bloodline of Cain. There's a big reason, there's a big difference in that, and a big reason to tell you and to bring that forward, because it's very important that we remember that. When these fallen angels had intercourse with these human women, they corrupted the DNA of humanity to a great extent. Not the whole race of humanity, but a lot of it was corrupted in this DNA wise thing. This was the plan, okay? And that is why that further on in the book of Genesis, you hear passage about that God looked down and he saw violence and wickedness in the world, of great violence and wickedness, and that the heart of man was only continually evil thoughts and all that, and he repented himself that he had made man. But Noah found favor in the eyes of God. Noah was a direct line descendant of Adam, not Cain. So that's very interesting to remember that, okay? Because you're dealing with different bloodlines. And to this very day, the bloodline of the Nephilim runs through the royal houses of this world, through the houses of the very rich and powerful. It's still that influence, and we're going to talk about that in a little while. That influence is still there. The Nephilim, although everything was destroyed by the Great Flood, supposedly, the Nephilim, the influence of the Nephilim in our DNA, in our world around us, and in the various parts of our civilization that we live in, is still there. The influence, the power is still there, and we will see it increase more and more as time goes on in our world. This influence is put there for a purpose, because the plan is still working. The flood didn't stop the plan. It set it back a little bit, but it didn't stop it. But it's still going forward, because this evil and insidious dark plan has one goal and one goal in mind only. It can't destroy God, but they can destroy us if we're not careful. It can destroy the creation of God, mess it up. And that is the heart of God. God, our creator, we are the heart of in his heart, the apple of his eyes, the Bible calls it. We are his creation. He loves us above all things. This is an extraordinary thing. But when these angels were cast out of heaven, when they rebelled against God, their leader was Lucifer, of course. That serpent, that old dragon, the devil, whatever name you want to call him. He was the leader. He was the instigator. He was the one who talked a third of the angels into following him in this unholy war against heaven. And he lost. They all lost big time. We don't know how many billions of angels this was. Really, nobody knows. There's a lot of conjecture in theology how many angels there were. But who knows? There may be an innumerable number of angels, because look how big the universe or universes is. and they were sent to overwatch the creation of God. Okay, although God is everywhere, you need to, many times, if you want things to work right, you've got to have representation in place. Okay, and that's what these were. The angels were the representatives of God. They were doing His work. They are His servants. That's what exactly they were created for. Okay, but when they fell, they lost that nature. Okay, now I've had a lot of people ask me, are demons fallen angels or something else? Now, there is a contention in theology that demon spirits, are actually the spirits of the deceased fallen who died during the flood and all that. That's a possibility. I'm not going to rule that out. It would not be that far fetched. But also, and I have run into demons, but I'm not going to get into that tonight. I know their nature in many ways and how they operate and how they do things. It would not surprise me if some of them are definitely not fallen angels. But some of these fallen angels, and I think it was the ones who actually did this with human women, that implemented this plan, have been bound and chained supposedly until the day of judgment. Some of these fallen angels, and angels are very powerful beings. We've got to remember that. Demons are not. Demons have power and they are very dangerous. Don't write them off the ticket, but they're not as powerful in my outlook as a true angel would be, even a rebel angel. Although fallen angels lost a lot of their power, they lost a lot of their, shall we say, mental capacity. They lost a lot of their purity and they were corrupted. And that's what the word fallen means, changing, coming down from one state to another. And we're saying down and not up, okay? And that's what happened with the angels. They are no longer as powerful as they once were, these rebel angels. We got to say that's a good thing. That's good for us. Because where did they fall when they fell? Right down here with us. And as I say in my last book, The Road Unseen, this was an alien invasion, okay? They were the first real, original aliens, okay, folks? When they fell from up there, okay? And in most every culture in the world, you hear legends, folklore, and tales of the sky people. You have to wonder about that, right? What are these people talking about? Why are they calling them sky people? And here's another interesting thing. And I've got some pictures I'll show you here shortly. The worship of the ancient old gods, every echelon of the gods, and includes the Norse, the Greek, the Romans, whatever gods, the Hindu gods, all of them, many of them are described as being giants. Okay, let's take a look at some stuff here. Now, this is Sumerian, I believe. Look at that picture, okay? That is a giant, folks. And he's got a whip. He has enslaved these people, supposedly to work in their tin and copper mines and gold mines. These were the Anunnaki, as they were called, supposedly. They also have another name, sky people. They are related to the sky, okay, in that respect. In other words, they are related to people who fell from the sky, the fallen, okay? That's Nephilim right there, without a doubt, okay? And here's another. Let me show you another one right here. This is very interesting. Take a look at this. Let me get this up here. Well, I can read it to you. Numbers 13:33. And there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which come of the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. Okay, look at that. That shows you a modern man at the very end, and then up there it shows you a true giant, which is around, I think, about 36 feet tall. Think about that. That's humongous. These things are monsters, folks. Like I said, they're not the Jolly Green Giant. They're not happy giants. These things were cannibals. They were very violent. They hated humanity. They hated each other. They were the very nature of their fallen fathers. Okay, and that makes them very demonic, very diabolical and evil type creatures. Okay, we've got to remember that the nature of the true giants. Here's another little picture of the little shepherd boy, David, after his encounter with Goliath. Okay, all right, take a look at that. Uh, the little shepherd boy. Now I know he's a little boy in this, but look how big the head of Goliath is. And Goliath had bigger brothers, supposedly, than him. Uh, take a look at this. This is Sumerian, I think, too, or no, this is from I think the Gilgamesh. Um, take a look at that. That is a giant holding a full-grown lion, like you would hold a kitten. Think about that. That's mind blowing. But that is a giant, my friends. And these giants were cannibals. They were evil. They actually railed against God. They rebelled against him. They were godless brutes. So they were just nothing but a monstrous corruption of humanity. But that's what was part of the plan, okay? And that's why people hated these giants so much. And you know about them in every culture of the world almost. They talk about the memory of these things and how they fought against them many times. And finally, some of them conquered. I think the Native Americans have an interesting legend about that in the Southwest. So you see, the giant has been with us from the beginning. This was the offshoot. This was the offspring of the fallen. Okay, that's what Nephilim means, basically, offspring of the fallen. Um, but yet they are still with us. Okay, they are here and they are still with us in many aspects. People worship with them today. People are influenced by them, even from the echelons of Hollywood to the media to the circles of the politics in Washington, the world's governments of the world, the families that run things in the background. It's the big money, folks, and that's what runs everything in this world, by the way. That's where the real power lies, the big money. They are offspring of the Nephilim. They are connected to the Nephilim, not only DNA wise, but spiritually as well. So the DNA is the physical aspect of the Nephilim, and the spiritual aspect is there as well, still in this world. And I think that's where you get a lot of these evil spirits roaming around, trying to possess people. And how many people out there are walking around right now tonight? You got to wonder about this. Are not under the control of this Nephilim spirits, these evil spirits that wander through the world seeking the ruin of souls, as that prayer goes. Very true. They're out there walking among us right now tonight, okay, in many different forms. These may be the men in black. These may be the black-eyed children that you hear a lot about. All of these things, like I said earlier, overlap the many fields of the paranormal, not just cryptozoology, but it goes into UFOlogy. It goes into parapsychology. It goes into, that's the things of things screwing around with people's minds psychically. You got a lot of this, and every field of the paranormal is touched by that denominating factor of the Nephilim. Okay, we've got to remember that. It's very important that we do, and we will be in our own lives eventually, in one way or another, someday, sooner or later, and I think it will be sooner. We will be touched by the spirit of the Nephilim that is still in our world. It is still a mover and shaker of the power that is there, the powers that be. I'm surprised now, even deep into this seminar, that there hasn't been some type of interference. They don't want this out. They don't like for this to be talked about. This plan was once upon a time the devil's biggest secret of all. Okay, they don't want to. They don't want this plan to be known. They don't want people to know about it. Okay. But now you got these guys who, on the other hand, are supposedly fighting about the dark forces, okay? Well, let me say this. I'm going to tell you something that's going to blow your mind. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that angels have wings, okay? Nowhere, okay? These are different beings, folks. All right, they're not what we think they look like. They don't look that way. These are beings of pure light and spiritual energy. They have different forms. They are different echelons of angels. The seraphim, the powers, principalities. I won't list them all here tonight. The seraphim is a very strange looking one. It's nothing but wings and eyes. And you have the cherubim. You have all these different types of angels, but now down at the lower bottom are just the regular angels, and that's what we're talking about here. They're the ones that had the rebellion. They're the ones that rebelled against God, not the archangels or the regular angels. The regular angels have heads and arms and legs, but like I'm saying, their actual physical form may be completely different than that. But they can look like us when they want to because they had an interaction and a closeness to mankind that the other angels do not have. Okay, we've got to remember that. That's very important, and that is why in this world today you have a lot of this stuff going on, like school shootings, massacres, these horrendous things happening because it's all part of this plan to bring down mankind, to bring down the creation of God. And as time goes on, I've talked about this before, as time goes on, this world, which is spiritually infected by this evil spirit type thing, will eventually rebel against us. The world's going to turn against us. The animals will turn against us. All of this is going to turn against mankind because mankind's the focus of this power against us, okay? And we've got to remember that because we are the supreme creation of God. That's why they hate us so much. They will never have what we have or have the ability to have. That is why these demons want to possess people so much and take over and feel things through them, have actions through them because they have no corporal body, okay? Now, the fallen angels still have a body per se. They still are spiritual beings in that respect, very much unlike some of these evil demon spirits. Okay, that's something. Another thing, another point we must definitely keep in mind. Okay, as time goes on, and this lecture gets deeper into that category. Okay, now, yeah, let me consult my notes here. We have let's talk about the blood and the genetics. Okay, there is a big tie in with blood in all this. Okay, and I've talked about this before, but there's blood sacrifices, the letting of blood, so on and so on, for dark purposes, for evil deeds, for sacrifices and all that stuff. What is it about blood, blood, blood? The blood, as the Bible says, is the life. And what's in our blood? Our DNA, of course. The blood is a very essential thing, okay? And there's a big tie in with the blood. As a matter of fact, sacrifice requires what? Blood, you know? So that's what that goes. That's the way that goes. Now, let me get back to a moment to the old gods. I want to stress something about that, like the gods of the Norse, the frost giants. And Zeus is always talked about as being gigantic. So it is with the Roman gods and so on. All of these gods were really fallen angels at the beginning. Okay, that's what they say. That they fallen angels who appeared to man, appeared to be almost like demigods. And angels, by these fallen angels, rebel angels, have big egos. They want to be worshipped. They want to take the place between God and man. Okay, that's their number one goal. And to do that, hey, if you want to worship them as a god, they love that kind of stuff. Okay, and that's where a lot of these stories, a lot of these traditions, a lot of the tales of the old gods in the world, and also the gods of nature, like Green Man and all these, began with these rebel angels. Okay, that was the plan. And the plan was to corrupt mankind, to lead mankind away from the true God, the worship of the true Creator, and put their eyes not only on them but on creation where it doesn't belong. They would take their eyes off of their true Creator. This was just another way to thwart or destroy the plan of God from humanity. God has a plan for humanity too. It has been already been implemented. Okay, but that was their goal and still is their goal, to destroy the plan of God too. Okay, so this plan, all of this insidious plan, goes very deep. Its roots are found in every aspect of our culture, our civilization, our very existence. Okay, because like I said in my book, when I talked about my book earlier, we were invaded eons ago by these aliens, and they were true aliens. I'm not saying they look like the green bug-eyed aliens of Alpha Centauri or the big-headed grays. They can look like that if they want to, folks. Okay, that's an interesting aspect of this. Don't be fooled, because everything, my friend, in this world is not what it appears to be. Okay, it's very important that you remember that. And these things know that, okay? And they know that they could even make a quasi semi religion around this kind of stuff. Oh, they're all for that because they left their egotistical maniacs. They want to be worshiped. They think that is hilarious, as you think that they're a god, okay? So that's the way they operate. So, like I say, this goes into UFOlogy, it goes into many different categories of the paranormal studies. Okay, I call them the paranormal studies. So there's so many different ones, but all of this bleeds over into that, into every aspect of our lives. And right now, I would not doubt without a moment that some of these large corporations, like BlackRock and some of these other ones, are not run by demonic entities that look like men, or rebel angels that look like men or women. Okay, that doesn't surprise me a bit. You may, and I've said this before many times, you may walk down the street tomorrow and you may look into the face of a murderer, or you could look into the face of an angel. But don't forget, there are angels out there, but there are also rebel angels out there too. Okay, and they're trying to implement their plan for the destruction of mankind. That's what it's all about. The absolute, unequivocal destruction of humanity. That's what their goal is. And they will try to accomplish that in the days ahead. Their plan is ramping up like a snowball going down a hill. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger, stronger and stronger and stronger as time goes on. They know they're running out of time. And when you know that you're running out of time, you work harder. And that's what you're seeing happening right now in this world around us. These demonic forces, whatever name you want to call them, they're working harder and harder towards their goal, the absolute destruction of humanity. And that is what it's all about. And that's what it boils down to. And that is where the Nephilim comes in. The Nephilim are still with us, not only just in spirit, but in our DNA. They are still, of course, children, and these giants were described as having more extra fingers, extra toes, extra rows of teeth. These things are still happening in our genetics, okay? They're still cropping up, these weird mutations that should not really be there. That is an aberration, not an apparition, but an aberration. That means something out of the normal. Something out of the normal is happening in nature. It's doing that for a reason, okay? And we've got to remember that there may be a lot of this Nephilim stuff behind that. I'm not saying everything is, but I'm saying that is a factor that we must recognize. Because the Nephilim, like I said earlier, are into every aspect of our society and our lives. So we've got to remember how insidious this plan is and how ongoing it is. And they also seek the division of man. They want to divide us, to have us fighting ourselves, to be enemies of ourselves, because then that makes it easier for them to do the things. It's not only about control, folks, although that's a big part of it. control, and slavery. Not only physical, but spiritual slavery. That's not what it's all about. It's not only just that, but it is the ultimate goal of destruction. Evil itself is very destructive by its own nature. No matter what it does, it seeks to destroy. Okay, in the end, that's what its equation comes out to. Um, these the origins of a lot of things in folklore could go back to the Nephilim, like the trolls, goblins, orcs, the different kind of cryptids that we talked about earlier. A lot of this may be directly connected to it, especially some of these cryptids that have been described. And we talked about this on my good friend Jessica Jones' show today. We had a very interesting show on Cherokee legends and how and cryptozoology and all that. If you didn't catch it, check it out. Go to her YouTube channel and check it out. And it was a very interesting show. And then when we talked about these cryptids, some of them have red eyes. That is a dead giveaway. What you're dealing with here is some kind of demonic, diabolical type power. And you have to be careful whenever you run into something like that. You do not want to make eye contact because their power lies in their eyes. You know, the Bible says that if the eye, and the eye is the number one light of you, okay? If the eye is dark and it doesn't let light in, it lets darkness into you, then how great is that darkness, okay? And we've got to remember that there is a darkness in this world, a dark and insidious evil that seeks our destruction. They are the worst enemies of all. And some people, and I'm going to talk about this shortly, some people, some aspects of humanity are in league with these forces. They are actually helping them in their goal. And that's why you have situations like, let me show you a quick photo here. I can get it up. That's where you have this kind of stuff going on, man. Devil worship, whatever you want to call it. You've got this going on a lot. And you see this cropping up now more than ever before in a lot of media and entertainment, especially. You see a lot of references to this. Why? Because they're wanting to see these images in your mind, folks. They're wanting to get you ready, soften you up. It's just like you soften meat up to cook it, to tenderize it. They're wanting to soften you up so that you'll accept these things more and more and more. I did a show last week on Hunting the Shadows about one of the first things that falls in civilization, that falls to this insidious kind of influence, is language. Think about the language that you're hearing today. You've never heard language like this back in the past. This was filthy, unfit, foul language that's being publicly displayed today. Once was never talked about, only in back rooms or in bathrooms amongst certain crowds of people. This is stuff that you don't hear about anymore. It's becoming blasé now. It's the thing to do. It's the thing to say. These words are okay and all that. They're softening us up. Don't you understand? The influence is an insidious brainwashing type technique. This influence is hitting on us 24/7, 7 days a week, day in and day out, night after night, day after day. This keeps pounding away at us. It's softening us up, trying to dumb us down, trying to pull the wool over our eyes. And we've got to be smarter than these things, okay? We've got to kind of turn the tables and turn the tide on these forces and be smarter than they are. Question these things when they happen. If somebody's using foul language in front of you and it bothers you, it hurts your spirit, tell them to shut up. Say, don't talk like that. Don't talk like that around me. If you want to talk like that, go somewhere else, but not around me. Stand your ground. Stand up for your rights against these things, because that's what they're about. They want to run roughshod over you, over your rights, over your happiness, over your way of life, over your traditions, over your family, over everything that you hold dear to yourself. They want to destroy. They are the enemies of everything good in this world, good and wholesome, holy and righteous. They are the enemies of everything that is light in this world. Okay, we've got to remember that, and we've got to fight back against it. The spirit of the Nephilim is still with us. They are here more so now, I think, in many ways than they have ever been before. They still are there. And they seek that division against mankind to wear us down, to divide us, to keep us from uniting, because they know that if we get together, we would be a force to be reckoned with. Okay, and they know that, and they want to keep us in these chains to the system, these chains of slavery to the system. And it is a diabolical system. It is not a good system that is running the governments and societies of this world. But that's what they want. And yes, the Nephilim in prophecy definitely is there. There are a lot of prophecies about the Nephilim and the things that will happen supposedly in the end times. And I think we're beginning to see some of that. Definitely, without a doubt, more so than I would have ever thought in my lifetime in the world today around us. Like I said, it's not just it's the attitude of humanity. Remember what I said earlier about what it said in about Noah in the times of Noah. God looked down and there was this violence and wickedness in the world, and every thought of man was continuously evil. Mankind had sold out to the darkness, okay? And only very few people left, like Noah and his family, that had not sold out, okay? But the vast majority of humanity had sold out to the darkness of the Nephilim spirit, okay? Whether there were giants, and I'm sure there were giants still then, and some of the giants still occurred after the flood. So, like I said, it's still in the DNA. It's not just a spiritual thing, okay? We've got to remember that as well. They have made an inroad into the creation of God. They have made a spearhead or a beachhead on this planet, and they are running this world. Jesus in the Bible says that who the God of this world really is, and it's not our creator. It is Satan, Lucifer, whatever name you want to give him. He and his horde of rebel angels and demons are running everything in the background. I call it shadow work. That's what it is. They have a shadow work ongoing, but there are people helping them. Humanity, certain factors in humanity that are helping them. And we have to wonder about some of these celebrities that come out of nowhere with a lot of money and prestige. You have to look twice at someone who's very, very popular and how they got that way. Because, like I said earlier, everything, my friends, has an origin to it, has a beginning, and there's something that started that beginning. Something laid a foundation for that. And you got to wonder what that true foundation really is. Is it good or is it evil? Because there are people out there walking around right now who have their positions in our society, who have their money, who have their power and their glory, only because they have sold out to the darkness. They have sold their souls to the devil, whatever terminology you want to use. They're gone over to the dark side, if you like Star Wars. Whatever you want, however you want to say it. They have sold out. They have sold out not only their souls, but they're selling us out too. That's the bad thing. It's one thing bad enough to sell your soul. It's bad enough, but it's even worse when you try to sell everybody else out as well. That's bad. That's a lot of blood on your hands, a lot of spiritual blood too, for that matter, because the spirit is eternal. Our bodies are temporary. Right now, one day we will lose them, but the spirit is forever. It is eternal. You will spiritually go on somewhere, in some form or another, forever. You will never die. Okay, in that respect. Okay. But you want it to be in a good way, and you want it to be in a righteous and pleasant way, and not to go the bad way into the darkness. I'm not going to get into what your fate would be, but that fate was never intended for humanity. That fate was intended for Satan and his rebel angels, okay? But we don't want to share in that fate. We don't want to buy over into their problem. We don't want to punch our ticket with theirs, okay? We definitely don't. And that's what we need to do in this modern day society. Constantly watch out and be on guard against this darkness of this insidious plan that's taking place all around us as we speak. The demon seed is still with us, okay? Whether it is planted by the incubi and succubi, or whether it is the actual bloodline of the Nephilim, or whether it is influenced by demonic possession. Whatever the situation is, the demon seed is still active in humanity, okay? And we must remember that, and we must recognize that for what it truly is. The influence of the Nephilim will carry over into our future. Okay, let's talk about that for a moment. The times are coming, like I said earlier, they may be some very strange things that are going to try to twist our reality and how we outlook on things. They may try to do it in the form of a so called bogus type alien invasion. They may use that alien imagery, and like I say, they are using it, I think, big time. And it is, you got to look at it, it's almost like a gift for them. This imagery that everybody recognizes is a great way to use it in their insidious way, of course, that they do things. They love imagery because imagery is what gets your attention, what reels you in, and they can make their connection with you. That's what they want. They want that connection, okay? That spiritual and physical connection follows after spiritual connection. And that's what they want. And that's the goal. That's part of their goal. And this imagery, whether they take it from your mind or from society around you or the world itself, or what imagery they have fostered and put forward for their own nefarious reasons. And I know without a doubt that the government knows that this exists and that these things are forthgoing in many aspects of our society today. They use this imagery in many different ways, and one of them is definitely this alien stuff that they're believing in going on, UFOs and stuff like that. Another imagery they're using would definitely be the cryptozoological type stuff. By the way, real cryptozoology is unknown study of unknown or undiscovered animals. Okay, uh, when you talk about a lot of these so-called cryptids, I look upon them more as beings, whether they be interdimensional, spiritual beings, or whatever they are. They're not really what I think of as true cryptids. But I'm not going to get into that tonight. But it's an interesting aspect of it all. But then it goes over into parapsychology, the ESP, remote viewing, clairvoyance, and all these other things. They try to make inroads into the natural abilities that humans have, and use that, turn it, and use it against us. Oh yes, without a doubt, that goes on a lot. And then you have where they also go against certain groups in spirit research, trying to fool people into believing they're dealing with human spirits when they're not. And of course, demonology. Demonology is definitely one area that they hate and would like to twist and warp it to their point of view and do what they want to with it. And earth mysteries, you have a lot of earth mysteries that they're behind, a lot of lights or things that are seen, like even UFO activity. And I've even had UFO cases that actually these UFOs harass people. And what is the connection? All of these things connect up, folks. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. You may have one piece, I may have one piece, but eventually they go together if we get together and put them together. And that's what you see here in front of you tonight. All of these pieces fit together to make the puzzle complete. We just got to fit them together because they're all connected. They're all part of the puzzle, okay? The main puzzle. And so we've got to understand that this goes over into folklore and superstition archaeology, where they found a lot of giant bones that have been covered up, skulls and all that. It goes over into psychology, where they try to manipulate and take over the minds of people. It goes into criminology, where not only these school and massacre shootings, but you have other horrendous crimes and sacrifices that go on. I've been in law enforcement, and let me say this: in law enforcement, you've got to realize what you're looking at sometimes may be satanic worship of some sort or something like that. You may see that a lot of times. I've had it happen. So that goes into it, and then it goes into the occult, big time into the occult, because the occult is that hidden knowledge, the symbolism I've talked about before that they use, the secret hidden language, the different rites that go on, and so on. That goes into the occult? Then it goes into the investigative science. And investigative science is where you try to prove something by scientific means. They can manipulate that. Look at a lot of these secret rogue labs that are out there. What are they up to? Why are they playing around with germs that can destroy humanity? It's all part of this nefarious and insidious plan, folks. No doubt about it. And then astronomy. Yes, astronomy. They will be using things in the future to confound us in the heavens. Signs and wonders and things are going to happen. It's going to be amazing, and we'll open some sort of paradoxical type doors to us of understanding on things. And then it goes deep into my field, one of my favorite fields, metaphysics, the interaction of these unseen forces with mankind. So you see, all of this is connected. That's why we have to question these things, and why we need to keep investigating and understand and cooperating with each other. We need to cooperate, support each other, and share our knowledge. We don't need to hold on to it. We need to do more in the fields of cooperation and support of each other, not only supporting our podcasts, but our endeavors, whatever they may be, whether they be field investigations, whether they be research gatherings, whatever the case. We need to support each other, because we're not going to get the answers that we are seeking, and the answers are out there to our questions, but we're not going to get the answers we're seeking unless we cooperate and support each other and share the things that we know, the knowledge and the experience and everything that goes with it. That is a very basic tenet that we must hold on to, because that is part of our power base in this thing, okay? And we've got to remember something else too. Although I know a lot of people are not religious, you've got to remember, and I'm not going to get into religion because religion is a man-made thing, by the way. But let me say this. There's a lot going on with the spiritual aspects of this, and we've got to be spiritually balanced in our outlook and in the way we take things. We've got to be spiritually strengthened to face a lot of this darkness that we're going to face in the future. The Nephilim know this very well, because they are truly spiritual beings. And in order to listen to this, it's something very interesting that Jesus said in the Bible. God is a spirit, therefore you must worship him in the spirit. And if you're going to have spiritual warfare, then you must fight spiritually against these things, because that's what you are fighting, spiritual beings. You've got to take it spiritually, although physically goes with it too, mentally goes with it too, emotionally goes with it as well. Those are those four main areas that I've talked about so many times in the past. These are the four gateways to the human soul. We need to guard them. We need to strengthen them. We need to balance them the way they need to be go. That way we will vibrate in our spirituality the way we need to, with strength and foresight and humility, so that we can get things done. Okay, we've got to seek that balance, okay, without a doubt, because that is where our power base is going to come from. And a belief in all goodness that is there, our creator who created everything. That belief is very fundamental to all of this, and at the very base of the foundation of this power base that we're talking about. But we're going to have to develop these things in the future, folks. We need to start now. We're going to have to develop them to fight or face this darkness that's coming, okay? And it's going to come and it's going to hit us in many different ways. It's going to hit us where it really hurts, okay? I hate to say that, but it's true. I see days and nights ahead of darkness that are coming, okay? And I'm talking about not only a physical darkness, but a spiritual darkness as well coming upon this world, because the fight that's taking place in this world, instigated by these rebel angels and the Nephilim and the forces of mankind that have sold out to these forces, these things that are going to happen are going to try to travail against us. They are definitely going to rise against us greater and greater and greater as time goes on. We've got to realize that, and we've got to be ready. We've got to hold ourselves ready, but we've got to be strong enough to fight this. We've got to be where we need to be to face this. And the only way we can face this is to unite against it. We have to have true unity. We can't let them divide us. We can't let them split us up, ideology wise or any other way. We've got to be united in our outlook and our goal and our determination against these things. They don't want that, okay? And there's a reason why they don't want that. Because, like I said earlier, we can be a force to be reckoned with. And that is what we need to seek in the days to come ahead of us in our fight against the Nephilim, because the Nephilim are still here. They are even part of us, okay? There is an inherent part of man that is evil. Oh, yes, definitely. We can do some horrendous things to each other, horrible things in war and everything else that we do. But yet there is an echelon even above that that can be helped by these dark forces or be instigated or pushed by these dark forces. We got to remember that they look upon us as a pawn in this chess game of life. That's what we are to them, pawns, to be moved around wherever they want us to be moved to be used the way they want us to. But I don't know about you folks, but I don't like to be used. Okay, I refuse to be used. Okay, I'm not going to buy the lie, and I'm not going to let them use me in that respect. I'm going to fight against it, and that's the way we have to. We have to get together and fight against it. I'm not about a physical fight here. I'm talking about a spiritual, moral fight against these things. That's where it's got to start, and it starts day by day with just the little things, okay? Like helping other people, looking out for other people, doing things, good natured things, good deeds, and all that. That's where it starts with just the little stuff, okay? And we've got to start doing that. We've got to keep that up, because that's where our power base lies, in unity and determination, humility, and in love for each other. You know, love is the strongest power in the universe. It negates the darkness. It destroys the Nephilim. They can't stand it. True love. And I'm not talking about love from the tongue or the mouth. I'm talking about really from the heart. True love for our fellow human beings. It's what it's going to help us stand in the days ahead. Okay, we've got to hold on to that and foster it, strengthen it, nourish it, keep it going. Okay, but that's a little bit about the Nephilim tonight. And I want you to remember, like I said, they are still with us. Their influence, that insidious influence, is still upon us. And they are still here not only physically, but spiritually as well. And we've got to be careful where we walk, you know. Evil wants to muddy the waters that we walk in. We need to seek clear waters, okay? We don't need to walk in the muddy waters of this world and its evil and its rumors and lies and all this other stuff. We need to seek truth, the clear waters of truth, okay? That's what we need to look for. And we need to deal with that, okay? Like I said before, I'm more worried about Russia and China than I am about alien invasions, okay? That's just me. Because that right now is a very present and viable threat in this world, okay? And here's the interesting outlook on this. When you go up against an enemy, you go up against the one that can harm you the most, you take him out first. Okay, or the one that's closest to your castle, or whatever the situation is, that's who you go after. Okay, not something in La La Land out there somewhere. You gotta look what you gotta be careful what you're doing, but you gotta do it in a smart, logical, common sense way. Okay, and that's the way we've got to deal with the threat and influence of the Nephilim in this world. We've got to look at it from Jesus, I think in the Bible said, I send you for out, be wise as serpents. Let's not be stupid. Let's be wise. Let's try to be smarter than our enemy, okay? Because our enemy is in it for one purpose, and like I said earlier, one purpose only, and that's our absolute destruction. He's not going to play around. He's not going to play checkers with us, okay? He's out for the big role. He's out to do the big thing on us here, and that's to get rid of us. Okay, and we've got to understand that this is our very spiritual and physical survival in this universe. Okay, this is very important, serious stuff, and we've got to remember that wholeheartedly, 100%. That is the way that this rolls. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this little seminar on the Nephilim tonight. And I want to say one more thing before I start taking your questions, hopefully, and your observations and all that. And by the way, like I said, check out that show we did today with Jessica Jones, the Cryptid Huntress. It was fantastic. The Cherokee Legends. A lot of that run into this stuff tonight with the cryptids and all that. So check her out, definitely. And another one in the chat tonight is Midwest Night Watchers. Check them out. They're out there watching the skies and everything else. They're in a very great show, very good show they have. So might want to check them out as well, along with Shiro. I think she has a show too. So check my friends out, definitely. Like I said before, we've got to foster that unity, that cooperation, the sharing and caring, and we need to back each other up in this fight, okay, folks? Because if we don't have each other's back, we're going to be in big trouble, okay? We're going to be doomed, all right? If we don't have each other's back, we are definitely looking in the face of doom. I'm not saying that lightly either. Okay. All right. So I'm going to open the floor now to discussion. And I've got your comments up here. And I really welcome everyone into the chat room tonight. It's really good to have you here. And yes, there's a girl in the gong. Yes, coffee and chess. I love them both. Coffee doesn't love me as much anymore as I used to. It bothers me sometimes, but yeah, I love coffee. Coffee and tea, I like them both. What was that show with the Huntress tonight? It was really good. Then I came over here, glad I did. Okay, well, I'm glad you're here, Blanche. And if everybody out there that's in there and haven't shared and subscribed, please do so. Okay, subscribe to Hunting the Shadows podcast. We would really appreciate that, and get some of your friends in. Jessica Jones, Midwest LT, Dr. You're my favorite ones. Thank you, sir. I'll put that up here. I'm gonna put some of these up. Okay, and hello, Ann. Thank you so much, Lisa Coast. Okay, come on with your question now. If you got any questions, anything you want to ask me, now is your time. The rest of the show is going to be devoted to you. Okay, so we've got about 40 more minutes, I think. So the rest of the show is for you. Okay, so start asking your questions. Great seminar. Thank you, and appreciate that. And thank you, Mike Jones. Appreciate that. And there's Jessica's in here. Hello, Jessica. Overbuilt. And it's all the store brand organic coffee beans, clean, very good price. I think I'm gonna blend. Oh, okay. Well, I might have to check that out. Definitely. Uh, do you think the Nephilim can connect to Sasquatch? I think there's an element to it there. Definitely. I think the Sasquatch and some of these other cryptids, as I said in the seminar, are basically connected to this manipulation of nature by the Nephilim. I think a lot of these things. Look at the way that the Native Americans describe Sasquatch as being a giant. He is a giant. So he is just a hairy giant, if you want to look at it that way. And the Nephilim were giants. So think about that connection, okay? Uh, yeah, I used to. There was Jessica. There was a coffee I used to get at Aldi. It was in the actual little K cups. It was great stuff, and they quit having it. I love that coffee. I can't remember the name of it now, but they did have some great coffee at that time. I'll have to check it out. I haven't been back in there in a while, so I'll have to check it out and see what they've got. Uh, have you ever had a Nephilim encounter? I thought, yeah. I'm gonna say this: every time you encounter a demon, you are encountering the Nephilim. Okay, because that's basically what they are. That's some of them, I think, are definitely demonic in that respect. Um, the Bible talks about the fallen, the rebel angels. Some of them are chained. I think 4 of them are chained, supposedly under the river Euphrates, until the end of the world. These and in the book of Jude, I think it was, he said that they are reserved and under everlasting chains of darkness until the day of judgment. Some of these angels, because of some of the things they did with human women, have been imprisoned because of the things. Angels are very powerful, more powerful so than the demonic, okay, because I think I've run into both, okay, without a doubt. Jan asked, could someone be born Nephilim and not know it? You can have the bloodline of the Nephilim in your makeup. Oh gosh, I don't. Most of the what you would call the Gentile people who are not Jewish would probably have some Nephilim in them. Okay, and but not everybody. I think a lot of the older royal bloodline families have more of a Nephilim connection than common people would. Okay, demons are dead Nephilim. In some aspects, yeah, that may be very much what you're dealing with here. I'm not going to get into the theology of that tonight, but it would not surprise me, okay, and it would not be that big of a leap to go that route. Dr. Girl, how do we deal? How do we deal? Let me get that up here, Dr. Girl. How do we deal with those in our life who do not want to take what we feel is true and real? I'm warning. They want to put us in. Somehow written hard times. They want to put you in crazy and make you. Well, that's the way. That's part of the plan. Okay, to discredit you. Uh, don't let them do that. That's what I said before. That's why we need to be united. We need to get each other's back. We need to do these things with love. Okay, love, like I said, is the most powerful of all. And we need to be very careful. Do not let these people discredit you. Stand up for yourself. Stand up for your rights. Your rights were given to you by your creator. Do not squander them. Do not let anybody do anything with your rights. If you can, as long as you can say, speak up, do it. Say, hey, I'm not going to be treated that way, okay? And don't associate with these people if they're going to treat you that way. Don't let them make a doormat out of you. God doesn't want anybody to be made a doormat. Comments are moving very fast here. Hold on a minute. Let me backtrack. Yes, our Rothschilds, Nephilim. Oh, without doubt, probably a lot of these royal and old bloodlines, especially the ones who've had money all these years. What do you think what do you think their origin is? That's why I said we have to question the beginning of some of these things. The royal families had a lot of hemophilia. Would you consider that just inbreeding? Well, that could be part of a Nephilim thing. Like I said, the Nephilim cause aberrations, not apparitions, because aberrations in nature. That's why I said that they bled over into cryptid stuff and all that. What if, per se, let's say like the Nephilim bred with an ape and you got Sasquatch, or it bred with a wolf and you got a dog man. I mean, these things can happen. They had hybrids going on. Look at all of the mythological animals down through history. Okay. I've had encounters with shadow people in a very large entity in a tree with very little feet. But these things can take on many different forms, Mike Jones. That's why they're so hard to pin down. It can look like one thing one minute and the next it can be something else. Because that's what you do when you shapeshift. As good as some of these things can shapeshift, okay? Without a doubt. He asked, where are the female Nephilim? A lot of there may have been female giants, okay? A lot of these could have been female giants just as they were male giants. It were well, you only hear about the male giants, but there may have been some female giants, and there may have been some giant breeding going on, okay? You might have had male and female giants interbreeding with each other, although they did hate each other, and they would eat and even kill each other and eat each other, supposedly. These were horrendous. They were monsters, okay? That's the only thing you can really call them, okay? They were monstrous things. Do you think Nephilim can control our minds? I know certain animals can in order to disable their brain. What did I say earlier about parapsychology? The gifts that we have inherent in us, they can come against those gifts. They can try to control them. They can try to fool us or get us mistaken with our gifts. They can attack us parapsychology wise. Parapsychology is a study of the mind in relation to outside and inside forces. That includes ESP, clairvoyance, remote viewing, audiology. The list goes on and on. I've studied a lot about it. And sure, they attack us that way as well. They attack us on all fronts. That's why we've got to be so very careful about him. Yeah, it's a lot. Let's see. You're moving out fast on me here, but that's okay. I'm keeping up. All the different cultures down in caves or underground. What are they hiding from? That would be the one thing that you have one connection with giants that you hear a lot about are the cave systems. That is the one premier place to go if you want to hide from humanity. If you become an enemy of humanity, which all these things are, the ancient people knew that a lot of these were the enemies of humanity. Although some of them worshipped them as gods, some people realized what they were. They were monsters, okay? And so they had to go hide. They had to get away from humanity, just like Bigfoot and Dogman. You don't see them hanging out at the mall, okay? No. And that's where I think a lot of this stuff went underground, and why you have so many stories of folklore and legend about what took place about these beings going underground. Even supposedly the remnants of the Atlanteans from Atlantis went underground. Can you go over the 6 types again, the subclasses you mentioned earlier? Yes, I can. Be happy to do it. Okay. You have 6 main fields of paranormal research. Okay. The first one is spiritual research, or ghost hunting, if you want to call it that. Spiritual research. Number 2 is demonology. Number 3 is cryptozoology. Number 4 is UFOlogy. Number 5 is parapsychology. That's what I was talking about earlier, ESP, clairvoyance, and stuff. And 6 is earth mysteries, like, unknown lights or orbs and stuff like that, things that we would consider mysterious things. And that's a very broad category, by the way. Now, here are the subcategories. These are the studies that support the 6 main fields, okay? These are studies that you need to get into if you're going to become truly investigative researcher of the paranormal. And then these are the subcategories: folklore and superstition, because they go together. Number 2 is archaeology. It helps you understand ancient past and the things that are going on and all that stuff. 3 is very important. History. You must be a student of history, not just history of mankind, but local history too. Okay. 4 is anthropology. You got to try to see things from other people's perspectives and their culture and all. Number 6 is criminology, because criminology and the paranormal, they often collide with each other. Okay. 7 is the occult. And of course, if you're going to study the satanic cults and some of these other things, you need to know what this hidden knowledge is. That's what the word occult means, hidden knowledge. 8 is investigative science. You must understand how and try to incorporate the way you investigate scientific wise things. Try to replicate something, take notes on it, try to understand it and study it. That's investigative science. Number 9 is astronomy, because a lot of things are connected to astronomy. I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about astrology here. Astrology is completely different. I'm talking about astronomy itself. The placement of stars and all that stuff have a lot to do, even with witchcraft spells, by the way. And then, of course, you have number 10, metaphysics. And that's the study of the interaction of unseen and spiritual things in this universe and how they interact and affect mankind. Okay, so that's the list. And you say things are ramping up. Have you any inkling of a timeline? Do you think the World Economic Forum, January 23rd, is there? I think I'm going to say, and I'm not going to go into the prophecy prediction thing. I'm not. I'm not a prophet, and I don't predict stuff. But I'm going to say you're going to see some things within the next 2 or 3 years that's going to blow your mind. Okay. And like I say, with 5 years down the road, if it doesn't escalate even more, 5 years down the road, we're going to maybe in a very bad place. That's all I'm going to say. I think that's being conservative in that respect. The giant bones found in Utah are redheaded. Oh, yeah. Also, Sue is a person who has taught with a true bloodline matter. They love the Father as we know him. Yes, the bloodline has been miserable, unfortunately. I'll say something about this. Like I said, who's your daddy? You're going to be like your daddy, just like you're going to be like your mama. Okay. If your mama was human, you're going to have some of that. If your daddy was not human, you're going to definitely have some of that. The fruit don't fall far from the tree. Okay. You are what you are. Whether if you're demon seed, you're going to act that way. I have seen that happen. I've seen some people who were adopted into wonderful families that turned out to be scum, because that's the way they were born with that blood. You know what I'm saying? John, is it true 36-foot giant bones were found in India? There's been a lot of speculation on that. There has been some story about that, but there again, I think it was covered up. Dr. Carroll, is it true? Okay, I'm sorry, I'm reading the same one. Okay, hold on. Thank you, Mike. Good question. Some of these giants supposedly reach the height of 36 foot. Now, I don't know. Speaking scientifically wise, you'd have to see what kind of interaction gravity would have on a being that large on this planet. I just don't see how they could move in any way possible with that much gravity pushing down. I'd have to see a scientific study on something like that. Revelation 6 beasts in Hebrew are monsters and abominations. Absolutely. They are something that's out of the ordinary. And they are a direct result of Nephilim interference. Okay. I call it not only influence, but interference, because they are trying to screw us up big time. Okay, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. The plan is still ongoing. It wasn't a plan in the past. It's still viable and still ongoing. They're not going to stop until they get what they want, until our Creator finally has to take a hand and stop it. That's the only thing that's going to ever actually free us from the interference and influence of the Nephilim. What does a giant soul look like? I don't know. I would think it would be very monstrous like itself. You know, what you are on the inside is what you are on the outside. and vice versa sometimes. Okay, that's why I talked about this foul language going on. That's you on the inside. You know, I had a teacher one time years ago. I mentioned this. Said gutter talk belongs in the gutter. That's where you belong if you talk like that. Okay, that's what she would tell you, because that is what's showing what kind of diseased spiritual soul you have. What comes out is what you are, my friend. Definitely. Some books that didn't make it into the Bible, as you say, one giant was 5,000 feet tall. Isn't crazy with the drawing? Well, I don't know about that. That would be far stretching. I'm just saying, the bigger you get, the more gravity pushes down on you. I just think that if you were a giant, you might could still move fast because your legs would take you farther faster than my human legs would take me. But that would, I don't know about you being very swift in that respect. I'll have to do a study on that and see. Better to, let's see. Better hope we have no kin to Cyclops. Let me tell you a little quick story about Cyclops, okay? Ancient man thought he found several skulls of Cyclops, okay, in a cave. As it turned out, this thing that had one big hole in the center of the skull was actually an elephant skull. That's where its tusk was. But it looked like an eye socket, and it looked like it would have come from a Cyclops. And so a lot of them say, oh, look, it's a Cyclops skull. But it was actually the skull of an elephant, okay? So you have to be very careful and don't misidentify things when you see them, okay? Like I said before, we've all got to use common sense in a lot of this stuff, okay? We don't want to put our common sense on the shelf somewhere. We want to keep it with us because it comes in real handy every now and then. Definitely. If you can feel the difference when you reach out and ask their God and like that they tell truth, understand that you understand standing of what they say may mean differently. You got to be very careful what you're dealing with, wild man's mom. These things can twist your mind around. They can screw with your intellect. That's one of the attacks I talked about. They will attack you mentally. They not only attack you physically, emotionally, spiritually, but mentally as well. And just one thing you got to really watch out for. And the way that they attack you in mentally is to try to twist your belief system, try to get you to believe things that are not true, to lead you away from things that are true, to try to get you to buy the lie. And they make that lie look so real, so convincing. The devil talked a third of the angels out of heaven. Think about that. That's some pretty good talking in my book. That old son of a gun could do it, couldn't he? The Nephilim today is something to worry about. Absolutely, they are. They are a force to be reckoned with in our world right now, right this moment. They are up to some bad stuff. Okay, they are doing the shadow work that I talked about. And the shadow work are evil, dark, dirty deeds done in the shadows. That's what shadow work is. They're up to some bad, nefarious things out there. Okay. Thank goodness we've got, there are more good guys out there than there are bad guys. That's one thing to think about. There are a lot more good angels than there are rebel angels. Do you think personality disorders like narcissism and psychopathy, which have strange structures, viable, related to Nephilim? But it would not surprise me one single bit, John. And I'll tell you something else. If they don't have it, or if there's even a little trace of it, the Nephilim would expand upon it, would definitely get behind that and try to make it take over your life, or even more apparent in your makeup. Definitely. I have seen the demonic use mental illness. And what you're talking about are forms of mental illness in a certain way. They use it very well. It's a tool that they love because they can hide behind it so well. With Soul Sounds that I saw, Oakman by Cryptid Researcher. A lot of these things appear as the old gods. The ones that like H.P. Lovecraft talked about, supposedly Cthulhu, and some of these other ones are taken from legends of the old gods. The old gods are definitely fallen angels and the Nephilim. That's what they are, and they wanted humanity to worship them as gods. That's where a lot of why, like I said, there's that giant connection again. I keep running into that, the giant connection. They were described as being giants, you know. Why? Okay, why this thing with giants? Because humanity knew the giants were not good in the end. There was something extraordinary about them. And, 3 foot tall face on a tree, huh? That's interesting. I've never heard of Oak Man. Oak Man is really Green Man in the summertime. Green Man appears as Oak Man in the summer, and then Holly Man in the fall and winter. Takes on the different attributes of the seasons, Mike. Supposedly. And he has a connection to the wild man, which is really the old European way of calling him Bigfoot. Genesis 6, Conspiracy Gary Wayne. Hell yeah. Great book, by the way, so far when I read about it. Scoot my chair over beside you and see if some will rub off on me. Thank you, sir. I'm hoping seminars like this will help a little bit rub off on some people. We'll see. I can't think name show. Can't think name show. Thank you, Midwest. That's the link to my website. If anybody wants to contact me later on with any kind of questions or observations or whatever, we're good for about 30 more minutes, okay? So, you got plenty of time if you want to ask any more, and we're just having a discussion here. Out in the world, are dinosaurs real, or is it just dragons and dinosaurs? Well, I think the dragon is a memory, and we talked about this on Jessica's show today. There is a Cherokee legend of a dragon, by the way. I think dragons can be sort of a racial memory for man, because I do not believe without a doubt that one day all the dinosaurs died out. I believe there are pockets, and there may still be some in some places of this world that still exist. But I believe man actually encountered dinosaurs somewhere back in time, and I believe that's where you get a lot of the dragon thing from. And dragons also may be attributed to gigantic snakes. You hear dragons described as serpents a lot of times. Well, thank you, Kyle. I appreciate that. The Cherokee legend of the giant lizard. Yeah, well, it's a snake actually, but it has wings and like a fin on it, like kind of like a lizard, and it has a diamond in the center of its forehead. I can't think of the name of it right now. I'm wondering about sonic booms. I've had that experience a few times. Okay, well, let me say that about the sonic booms. Sometimes, now listen to this, what I'm about to tell you. I'm not going to say it's a sonic boom, but you will hear strange noises in certain circumstances, strange explosions and stuff. You have to wonder if this is another one of those earth mysteries I talked about. Could it be some tectonic plates moving underground? Could it be gas explosions underground? Could be a lot of explanations for some of these. They don't have to be jets passing over. The interesting thing about these earth mysteries, that's what they are, mysteries. They occur you can't put them in a laboratory. You can't scientifically investigate them many times because they are strangely occurring things. You never know when they're going to happen. But you have a lot of stuff in there. I would suggest, though, if you want to get into a fascinating area of the paranormal, look into earth mysteries. Fascinating stuff like the Brown Mountain Lights, the Marfa Lights, a lot of those out there. You got some weird stuff. But I've actually seen spiritual energy appear like an orb and pop, make a noise, almost like a firecracker going off. That has happened on rare occasions. Spiritual energy does some freaky things. Even the energy in the air around us, earth energy, does some weird things. Yes, I've always questioned dinosaurs. Are skyquakes Our photon ion spacecraft backfire. Skyquakes may actually be buildups of kinetic energy in the air, ionic energy that, like, a lot of people don't realize that, lightning does not start in the sky. It comes from the earth, goes up to the sky and back down. That's the way it does. It starts from the earth. You got a lot of earth energy here that could affect the very atmosphere around this planet, because the atmosphere, you got to remember this, the atmosphere of this planet is part of this planet. Okay. So there you go. I've got several YouTube friends in Africa asked about cryptids, and the first one mentioned was let's see, I lost that. StreamYard's moving slow tonight. The comments are moving faster than StreamYard is. Yeah, they mentioned a lot about those. I can't, Momo Mimbe or whatever his name is, that lives. It's sort of like a brontosaurus looking kind of a thing. Yeah. I've been hearing these only under certain circumstances. I'm looking for answers on sonic booms, cryptid and activity. You might also want to check out the Seneca guns, chugging it down with cornbread. Check out and investigate the Seneca guns. That is a phenomenon that's been going on for a thousand years. They're heard along coastal areas, and if you want to study some of that, and this is a very strange Earth mystery as well, then why aren't there a historic culture phenomena? I didn't catch the beginning of that. Yes, definitely. Please like and subscribe, share, and subscribe, please. And make us happy, okay? We want to get more subscribers coming in. We want to get bigger and bigger. I also have bones that are precisely cut that have been found. I have found. Oh, yeah. Well, now, if you go back in time, you will see a lot of evidence of what some of the things men have done. And when you cut bones like that, it sometimes denotes, not every time, but sometimes can be tied into sacrifices, human or animal sacrifices. Most sky sounds are like a trumpet. Yeah, those are the angels tuning up. Okay. I'm just joking. Of course, it might not be. It may really be tuning up. I have no way of knowing. Okay, I'm hearing crickets out there. All right. 9:41 p.m. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for telling me that. I also see Abbott, let's see. All right. Yeah, well, we're looking for more questions, more observations. Come on, man. I hear crickets out there. Don't want to hear no crickets. Yeah, any questions that we missed, just please ask them again. Or harp. Yeah, it could be harp, Jessica. That's another weird thing on. That's manipulation of our environment, big time. Oh, and that noise in your background. That's that little noise is in your background. That's a cryptid. It probably is. Wasn't the reason David had 5 stones was for Goliath's brothers. Yeah, well, you prepare a plan B and C just in case. I have seen people use those slings, and it's like a bullet shot. I mean, it is. I would not want to get hit with one of those rocks, but it did a job on the life, definitely. You heard of any cryptids in Africa I can ask about? Oh, there's a lot of them. God, a lot of them. Like that Momimbe, which is a real big African legend. There are also legends, if you want to talk about them, I don't know if you classify them as cryptids, but it kind of goes into that. The leopard and the lion men, you might want to ask about some of those. And some of these leopard and lion men supposedly actually can turn into leopards and lions. Okay, that's an interesting thing. Was the entire Earth meant to be tropical? Weather is manipulated. No, I think we have different climates, definitely for a reason, because you have different areas of the Earth, like the North and South poles, the equator, and all that stuff. But man will never quit ceasing to try to manipulate Mother Nature. It's not a good idea to do that. What do you think of walking trees? I've heard of there is legends in many cultures throughout the world that trees actually move, but they won't move so fast as you can see them. They actually move very slowly, you know, and that's where J.R.R. Tolkien got the idea for the Inuits, and the Inuits in Lord of the Rings, the trees that talk. They're supposed to be shepherds of the forest. They're supposed to be guardians, very much like the Green Man we spoke about earlier. I've heard of mermaids in Africa. There's a well-known story of one side and busting here in the stream. I'll tell you something, John Fortman. Wherever you go in the world, be it Ireland, Japan, the Aleutians, wherever there is a body of sea, lake, or whatever, you got mermaids or mer people, whatever the case may be. More about mermaids, especially lake mermaids. Yeah, definitely. Lakes have a lot of those. Very much like the mermaids kind of run, Jessica, along the same lines of lake monsters. Every lake has almost got a lake monster. So there you go. There are videos on YouTube, very obvious walking trees. Yeah, some can be supposedly seen, and some can supposedly do it so very quietly they move that you can't see them. There are videos, could all the Greek, Norse, and Asian gods be Nephilim? Absolutely, I think. Or that is their origin, okay? That's how they began. And they were, if you ran, let's put it this way, if you ran into a monstrous giant that was out of the ordinary and it looked the way these guys did, primitive man would naturally say, hey, I'm going to get on this guy's good side. If he wants me to worship him as a god, I'll do it so he doesn't step on me. Okay? Think about it. The things that are seen to you is what opens you careful what you put your trust in. That way you can. There's a video of a diver that caught a bit of film, something swimming. I've seen some very interesting mermaid videos. I saw one the other day that looks. I tell you what, you can't really trust any of this stuff anymore, though, folks, because of AI, the way that AI is going. Um, AI can fool a lot of people. It's like what Edgar Allan Poe said, believe nothing that you, half of what you hear and nothing that you see. You got to be very careful what you believe, because some of this stuff is, some of these people need to be working for Hollywood movies studios. Okay, let's put it that way. But StreamYard's not letting me back up very much. I think that was Mark Twain, Samuel Clemens. Yeah, he might have stole that from Edgar. And I think Edgar Allan Poe's the one that said that originally. Edgar Allan Poe wrote a story called about Tar and Feather, Dr. Tar and Mr. Feather, something like that. He was into actual scams and stuff. Well, he liked to expose scams and stuff that people were pulling on other people. He kind of like Houdini was with the spiritualists. Africa is serious underground stuff. No, yeah, there's all kind of stuff in Africa. Native American chanting in your background. I don't know what that could be. There's nothing going on here. There should be nothing playing, actually. Does anybody else hear that? What about these mountain giant Nephilim here today? Oh, yeah, what I said earlier in the seminar about the trolls, the mountain trolls, and all that, they would be directly connected with the Nephilim. Have you heard Professor Wessel Targ with the Kia remote view. Oh yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, very interesting stuff. Do you not hear it? I do not hear it. I do not hear it. It could be somebody next door doing something. I have some neighbors that like to play very loud stereos and stuff. Has there ever been a story of a zombie giant? I don't know. Some of those giants were acted very much like zombies, like the Cyclops you have in the story of Ulysses. Uh, I never had actually heard of a zombie giant, I don't think. The sound came right before my comment about it, and it's not ongoing. Does anyone else hear it? That's right. Let us know if we hear. We may have a paranormal event going on here. Make sure it's not my phone. Nope. Let's see. Logging. Sagging to that some age. Logging. Lagging some. Some age. Like you. The white cat's reincarnated cat you lost. It's very strange about Ghost. He showed up right before the black cat died, actually, sort of like a replacement. All the voice in my head or what you heard, Rascal. Maybe the voices in my head are trying to get out too. Uh, yeah, my black cat died in early October, and but he got very sick, and like about a week, 2 weeks before he started getting real sick, this white cat showed up, and he's solid white. By the way, this white cat has a twin brother. I named him Spirit, and he shows up. He's real wild. Ghost will have something to do with me. Ghost will let me pet him because he wants to get fed, I guess. But his twin brother, Spirit, won't have anything to do with me. But looks just like him. You can't tell them apart. They're both albino cats. They have pink eyes. You're not a thing. Hard and sad. Yeah, he had cancer. Poor guy. I think he had something bad wrong with him. I actually had somebody came to me that day and said, "Your cat is up here on my porch up the street, just dying." So I went up there and got him, brought him home. I tried to make him as comfortable as possible. And poor fella, he didn't want to give up. He was a fighter to the end. And he got off the porch and went to the backyard, actually, and was out on my back patio for a while, hanging out because I could see him with my cameras. Then he got gone. That's when I found him out in the yard, laying dead the next day. And he put up a fight. He was a warrior to the end. I never did figure out exactly how that cat was invisible on one camera and visible on another. That was really weird. My grandfather would only keep white cats as pets. She was terrified of black cats. Well, in England, by the way, in Britain, the white cat is considered bad luck, not the black cat. Yeah, this cat picked me, evidently. Sound again louder. Huh? I don't know I don't know. I don't hear anything. It's really weird. Oh, Melissa just heard it. Okay. Wow. It may be somebody next door playing some music or something. I don't know. They pat their hands over their mouth. Oh, that's weird. I mean, you sound too moaning. Uh. Ann says she can't hear it. I don't know. I believe it's somebody next door doing something out there. Something. I don't know. Today, also, it's me. I did hear there. I thought maybe Dennis was making a noise like a hum or something. uh, I can't hear it. All right. Sounds like a dying grandma. My gosh. Anyway, let's see what else we got. Any more questions here? We got about, let's see. Somebody give me a time check. Okay, we got about 8 more minutes here. All right. Yeah, well, if I got ghosts, this house is doubly blessed and protected. I don't see there be anything in here, but maybe I need to do some more protection on it. Yep, if those ghosts do tune in, they need to hit that like button and subscribe if you can. If your fingers can hit the subscribe button. My family will be subscribing and friends. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And I appreciate everybody's support. And I hope you really enjoyed the seminar tonight and you learned something from it, maybe. But like I said, don't forget, angels do not actually have wings. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that angels have wings. That's our interpretation of them. But I do believe without a doubt that angelic beings are interdimensional guys, okay? I think without a doubt they are. Do you have any favorite cryptids? Well, my favorite cryptid, really, I guess, because I went and investigated him firsthand, and I've seen Bigfoot. I know he exists. I like him. But my favorite cryptid, although I'd love to meet Dogman, I'd love to see him, is probably Mothman. Mothman is interesting. I actually did investigation. I went to where Mothman was seen and all. So I guess Mothman's kind of close to that. I don't know. I really don't have an absolute favorite. There's so many different ones. I've always wanted to investigate the Yeti in the Himalayas and all that, kind of like John Keel did. Green Man, also in Florida, Sunshine State, high five. All right. Love your show, love your story time. Thank you. I appreciate that. I forgot the caps. Caps are hard. You have to hit that cap button and push it down and keep it down sometimes. I have that problem with mine. Mothman, you got me. Mothman, yeah. Mothman is so weird, far out and freaky, and I have to like him. But there's a lot of other ones. If you heard the show today on Jessica's show, I talked about one called La Chusa. You ever heard of La Chusa? We were talking about Spearfinger, who is the Cherokee witch that kills you with her finger and eats your liver. La Chusa is the owl witch. She can appear to look like a giant owl with the face of a woman. She likes to eat little children. La Chusa, the owl witch. Native American sites or history in your area. Oh, we have a lot, John. There was a lot. As a matter of fact, not far from where I'm at, and I'll talk about it one night. I have some pictures of it too. Is the Indian massacre gravesite where a lot of settlers were massacred by Cherokee Indians, and they're buried in a common grave. There's a lot of freaky stuff supposedly happens down there. I went and spent the night there. You're talking about one of the creepiest locations I have ever been in. That was a creepy place. But the Indian gravesite massacre gravesite is a very strange place, way out in the middle of nowhere. And they say that you can hear screams sometimes of the dying or Indian war oops. And I did hear something that night, although we could not get it on to record. We had recorders, but it would not pick it up. We heard some weird, freaky stuff. I have to talk about it sometime. I have some pictures of it. I'll have to show. the owl, Lechuza. I think I spelled Lechuza, Lechuza. Absolutely awesome shows now. Thank you, Kyle. Heard of that in Mexico. Yeah, it's down in Mexico, the Southwest. It is a very. I have a story about a man who actually saw one. His kids come in one night. They went out to like feed the goats, and they come back in screaming that there was something in a tree out there. And he went out there and he saw the owl witch Lechusa, and he had always heard not to look at it, look, eye contact with it. So he went back in the house and he called his priest, and the priest come and told him the best way to get rid of it is to shoot it with blessed rock salt. So the priest blessed some rock salt. He put some shotgun shells, and the next time Lechusa showed up, he shot it, and it supposedly screamed, flew over his head, and never came back. Thank you, Kyle. You're most welcome, sir. I enjoy sharing these things with other folks. It's a good thing we can all do and get together and share stuff. And I want to appreciate all of you tonight. I really do, for being here tonight. I hope you enjoyed the seminar, that you maybe learned a few things. And our next seminar will be on all about angels. I don't know when we'll schedule it, but it'll be soon, maybe. Angels are fascinating. I love angelology. Angelology is a favorite of mine. And we will definitely do a seminar on all about angels. We'll get deeper into the subject of angels, what they really are, what some of them look like, and what their jobs are, and all that. And so we'll think about that for the future, maybe. Okay. And so keep me all in your prayers, and keep good thoughts going for me. I appreciate it. I have some medical things going on and some health things, and I would appreciate your prayers definitely. And now this Friday night, I'm supposed to be scheduled to be doing a show with the Blinds and Booze. Booze, not booze, by the way. It's booze, like you scare somebody. Booze. The Blinds and Booze, Krista and Brandy, I think. And I'm going to be doing a show with them. And so if you get a chance, tune in. That'll be 8 o'clock Friday night. But after the show, I will have an edition of Paranormal Point of View. I may keep up some of you up a little late that Friday night, okay? But it'll be fun. We're going to talk about inhuman underground dwellers finally, okay? And some other stuff too. I got a review to do on Gary Wayne's book. I've got some movies to tell you about. So we're going to have a good time Friday night when we'll get to it. I don't know how long it'll go with Blondes and Booze, but I'm looking at maybe around 10 o'clock that I'll come on with Paranormal Point of View, okay? But I will definitely let you know, so be watching, okay? And I really appreciate all of you coming tonight. I hope you enjoyed the seminar, and I hope we got over the hump, and I hope you have the rest of the week is clear sailing into the weekend, and you have a wonderful weekend. And I really appreciate all of you. Don't ever forget, you are family. You are part of this podcast, okay? You are part of this podcast. This is your podcast too, and don't forget that. And get your friends and all that to share, subscribe, like us out, do whatever we need to do here, okay? We want to grow, get bigger and bigger. And the bigger we get, I will start having some very interesting guests on. I know a lot of people in the paranormal fields that we can get on here. I definitely will, and I would like to pick their minds on some stuff things that have happened to them. If the good Lord's willing and the creeks don't rise, we got some very interesting times ahead of us. Okay, so hang in there with us, and like I said, subscribe if you haven't already. And I appreciate your being here. I appreciate you sharing this time with me and allowing me to share my time with you. And until we get together again, I raise the parting glass, my friend, till once more we meet again. Remember, veritas et equitas, that means truth and justice. Omnia exuit in mysterium, all things in mystery. Embrace the mystery. Godspeed. Hunting the shadows.